So this next video is going to take a detailed look at goalkeeper psychology, really to help educate coaches and parents and younger players at what really is involved with this position. And there's a fair amount that's been written about this for certainly older folks who play goal at high school, college, or professional levels. A little bit that you can find on the internet about kids, but not a whole lot. So I think it's worthwhile to take a look at some of the aspects of goalkeeper psychology in a little bit of detail here. And really, if you think about what the kids go through in doing this position, there's a lot of different elements, but they have to manage and reduce being afraid. There's always fear in playing the position, whereas that may not be the case on the field. They have to be dedicated to improving their skills. They have to get good coaching and support. They have to be willing to accept when scored on, because it's obviously a high visibility situation. They have to want the most important job on the team, and they have to be able to learn to handle the attention that they're going to get. And to deal with all of that kind of stuff, it's really important that they have good training. The more training they have, the more confidence they're going to get. And they also have to be willing to play the position for the right reasons. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on in the video. So a few points to talk about psychology for young goalkeepers in a little bit more detail. A good place to start is to recognize that this position is hard for anybody to do, but especially for younger kids. Training for playing in goal takes a lot of hours, and as we've seen in earlier parts of this video series, there's a lot of different training exercises that the kids have to learn to play the full position, but they only get a small amount of actual playing time in a game. Depending upon how many shots the goalkeeper gets, they could play maybe 1 minute total or 2 minutes total, but much less play time than the kids on the field. But when they do play, it's very important. So boredom can become an issue for some kids. And so it really brings up a challenge for the coaches on how to keep them alert and engaged in a game. Because chances are, if they're very busy in a game, then the coaches are going to have some other issues about the defense isn't working as well as they'd like. It's better for the keeper to be busier from both a play standpoint and also from the standpoint of practicing and developing their skills, but it certainly will tend to be a bit of an issue for the coaches because their defense isn't really playing as well as they would like them to. Goalkeepers are also a huge focus of attention, particularly when the play comes to them. Both the coaches and the spectators have all their attention on the keeper. People do realize that every shot is not going to be saved, but the kids who play in goal certainly are aware that everybody's looking at them. And so in those types of situations, it's only fair that the coaches look to prepare them as much as possible for that situation and not just assume with a little bit of training that kids can go play and feel confident about doing that. There are some, both coaches and spectators, who may think that goalkeeper is easy if most shots in a game seem to be easy. But we'll talk a little bit more in this video a little bit later that there really are no easy shots for a goalkeeper. And coaches also need to know what are the reasons that kids want to play in goal. That's very important to understand, because kids can play for a variety of different reasons, but again, we want to make sure they play for the right reasons. One of the things that is useful to cover is the question of, is there any such thing as an easy save? And I think to those who are a little less familiar with the goalkeeper position in terms of coaching or just observing kids playing it for a number of years, it certainly seems that there are balls that don't come very fast, that the kids are able just to easily scoop up or cover or fall on, that seem to be pretty easy. And it's easy to conclude, gee, that doesn't look like that's particularly hard. If we kind of take a look at the picture on the bottom right of this slide from the goalkeeper's point of view, and here's a young kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, playing in goal, filmed from behind through the net. The problem is that this goalkeeper doesn't know ahead of time where a shot might come from, how fast it's going to be. Will it be an easy or a hard one? Is it going to come high? Is it going to come low? Will a defender come in and clear the ball at the last minute? And so it's a very tense situation, a very uncertain situation, particularly when you're younger, but at any age. And this makes every shot challenging, and the goalkeeper's confidence is a key factor in this. So we're going to show in just a moment a short video clip of an actual goalkeeper save, and this clip was used a little earlier in the video segments showing actual saves by a goalkeeper, so we're reusing one of these clips. This just a freeze frame photo here of what looks like a simple front cover save. So the goalkeeper is under the red arrow here in orange and covering the ball with her chest, and then a couple of her teammates in white are standing nearby, and the two kids in the darker uniforms that are nearby the top of the goal have just attempted to make a shot, or have made a shot, but it was not a successful goal. This is certainly not a fancy dive. It's not a 1v1 charge. It looks simple to most people that would look at it. And when a play like this happens pretty quickly, it just doesn't seem like that was a very difficult save. But let's watch the next video, and particularly the part in slow motion. And what you'll see is that the players that are battling for the ball in front of the goalkeeper make it very difficult for that goalkeeper to know if, when, and where the shot might come. And in fact, the player that finally made it through a couple of defenders in white and got the shot off, it wasn't clear at all that that was going to happen, and it happened very quickly, so the goalkeeper had to react very fast just to cover the ball, because had that not happened, it would have been pretty easy for that player to have put the ball into the net. And this, frankly, for the goalkeeper can be a very nerve-wracking play. So it looks simple, it's really not. So we just watched that short video clip of that actual goalkeeper save, which again was a front cover. Again, it can deceptively look simple, and it really is not a simple play. You can see that the keeper spent quite a bit of time and effort into the footwork and trying to track the ball. It's again a pretty nerve-wracking 15, 20, 25 seconds, however long the play took. So the goalkeeper psychology is very important, because none of this stuff is easy for the kids to do, particularly when they're getting a whole lot of attention at that moment from virtually everybody that's there at the game, coaches and the spectators. So key question for coaches and parents of kids who want to play goalkeeper: is the young player really fierce, determined, and unafraid, as we're looking at the boy on the left, or is that child who wants to play the position really more unsure, hesitant, scared some of the times? And this girl on the right appears to be a good example of that. So it's important to assess whether a player is really going to be suitable for goalkeeping, and then really at what level might that be. So when we take a look at the areas of goalkeeper psychology, there really are several key ones that come to mind. These are not necessarily in the order of importance, but rather just to list them. Degree of confidence is probably the most important. If the person seeking to play in the goal is not inherently pretty self-confident, this is not very likely to be the right position for him or her to do. So understanding whether the child is afraid or not in this kind of a situation is very important. Also, is the player self-conscious about the position? And they might be confident, but they might also feel self-conscious if a ball gets by them, worry about it too much, not be able to shake it off and focus on the next play. So that's another key factor to consider. Commitment to the position. Some kids are willing to do it, but only for part of the time, and they may do it because they hope to get some additional favor or advantage for playing on a field position that they would rather play. They may feel that they have to do it because the coach asked them and nobody else wants to do it. So they may not be really committed to it, and other kids may be very committed to it because they really enjoy playing in the goal. It's something that intrigues them. They like learning the new skills that are associated with it, and they really enjoy the success of when they do make a save. They have to be able to handle the psychology of being scored on, because that is going to happen no matter how good you are, and the ability to shake it off and focus on the next play, and frankly to realize that the vast majority of goals are really not the fault of the goalkeeper. They really are the fault of the defense, because if the defense really had done a good job, there probably wouldn't be a shot in the first place, but there's no perfect defense. Also, wanting to have lots of training, and again spending a fair amount of time doing this for a relatively small amount of actual play time in a game when you're in that position. But the goalkeeper has to want a lot of training because a lot is required, as we've seen in other parts of this video series. And then another area to consider is the goalkeeper's sense of value to the team. And again, why is he or she doing it? Do they believe that they're doing it to add value? Or do they believe that they're doing it because they have no choice? How do their teammates feel about them? So again, these are some key areas to consider, and what we're going to present next are some example questions for helping assess really these areas of psychology for a player. So what we're going to take a look at next is a series of questions that can be helpful for players, parents, and coaches to assess where a player who would like to play in goal, or right now is playing in goal, where their degree of confidence is at, and some other key factors associated with playing the position. This is not developed from any strict peer-reviewed psychological study. It is a series of questions that are kind of based on assessments that you may find online for assessing kids' confidence levels in general. It basically uses a Likert scale of 4 options to answer a question, with some not sures available also. So again, it's not a scientifically designed assessment by any means, but I think it's useful for just illustrating the kinds of things that can be asked to help assess where a child's psychology is relative to playing in goal. So just review these questions fairly quickly, but things to ask such as, why does the child want to play in goal, in terms of how it might make them feel about themselves? Do they have fear when they play in goal? How nervous do they feel when others are watching them play? Does it really matter for them being a goalkeeper? Or would there be other activities that would make him or her feel just as good? How do they feel when they stop a shot? Is it something that really makes them feel very good and powerful when they do it, and they just really love the feeling of doing that? Do they really need a lot of reinforcing when they play well in a game, or do they just are they confident on how they play? Are they in a situation where they're hesitant about starting the game, or they really can't wait to play? They look very much forward to it. Do they wish that sometimes other kids would play in goal and that they could play on the field, even when they're a full-time goalkeeper? How do they feel about getting more training to improve their skills and be able to save more shots? How do they feel about playing in goal relative to helping their team? Do they understand it's a very important position? How do they feel about that? Do they see themselves playing goalkeeper for a long period of time going forward? And overall, do they feel like they're a very confident person? So these are some of the kinds of questions that you can explore with kids relative to drilling down into their psychology relative to playing in this position. So returning just for a moment to the slide that we started out this video segment with, when we review some of these kinds of key questions, it really helps us to assess really the psychology of where the player might be at. Again, looking at the areas of managing and reducing being afraid, how they are dedicated to improving their skills, getting good coaching and support, being willing to accept when they're scored on and how they handle that, wanting the most important job on the team, being able to learn to handle the attention and so forth. So the assessment is important, and recognizing that good training is important to help kids build their confidence, and that they should play the position for the right reasons. Finally, let's just wrap up with taking a quick look at what are the best ways to build up confidence in the goalkeepers. And the first point I would make is simply training, training, and more training. And also the right kinds of training. Again, it becomes an issue for the player to want this kind of level of training for a relatively small amount of actual minutes of playtime on the field. So he or she has really got to enjoy playing the position in terms of areas other than just the amount of playtime such as players will get on the field. And the training, as we've shown in this video series, consists of all of the traditional footwork, catching, diving, and distribution skills. But it also consists of understanding all aspects of the position. Understanding, as we showed in a different segment, how this is really the goalkeeper's own game, that the game is very different from anything else on the field. And then also understanding how you play the space in front of the goal, and lots of repetitions, including short-sided play, are vital to helping the player prepare to do this and do this very well.